Hey everyone, welcome to Logan Smosh Pig. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Kick back and relax. Another episode of Rock and Read has arrived. Today we'll be reading Chapter 5 of It's So Easy and Other Lies by Duff, McKagan. Let's find out what happens next. I continued to get a lot of shifts at the Black Angus, the steakhouse in Northridge where my brother worked. Once I had socked away a few paychecks, I decided to rent an apartment. I headed straight for Hollywood and began my search for the perfect place. Well, the perfect place that I could afford. Okay, so I was looking for a cheap place. One of the best spots I had found to sleep in my car was on Orchard Street, just up the hill from Franklin. It seemed natural to look in that area, though, of course, anywhere up the hill was out of the question, because the higher up you went, the higher the rents were. One morning I woke up, left the Maverick parked in the shade of a wooded hillside block, and walked down toward Franklin in search of a bargain in the skeezy, treeless streets below. Orchard went through to Hollywood Boulevard then, right behind Grauman's Chinese Theater, Mann's at the time. That short block of Orchard between Franklin and Hollywood was one of the most drug-infested lanes in the city, visited nightly by dealers, hookers, and cops. The Chinese Theater was a mess back then, too, full of creeps. I saw an app for rent sign in a window and ducked into the Amore Arms, an apartment building on that block behind the Chinese Theater. The place available was a ground-floor studio apartment, one room with a hot plate and a little fridge. The window looked out into an alley. There were alleys behind all the buildings in this part of Hollywood. The price was $240 per month. When I told the woman who managed the place that I would take it, she said it was a Section 8 building. I said nothing. Then she said, "Are you Section 8? "I don't know," I told her. These days, I know it's the designation for federally subsidized low-income housing, but back then, I had no idea what it meant. "Well, you go to music school?" "No," I said. In fact, not only did I not attend the school, I didn't know about its existence until she mentioned it that very moment. I had to ask Slash about it later. Turned out, just around the corner, above the Wax Museum on Hollywood Boulevard, the Musicians Institute trained shredders like Paul Gilbert of Mr. Big and John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. "Just say you do," she says. Say, "Yes, I do." "Yes, as a matter of fact, I do go to the music school," I said. I got the apartment. My first night there, a police chopper buzzed overhead, beaming its searchlight into the alley my window faced. My room was briefly as bright as midday, and I heard a lot of rustling, running, and shouting outside. Helicopters, ghetto birds, as the other residents called them, circled over Hollywood all the time, and those searchlights shined into my window on a nightly basis as the cops chased people around the alleys of my new neighborhood. The other thing I noticed that first night was an odd sensation when I first turned out the lights and flopped down on the mattress on the floor. It felt as if something were crawling on me. At first it was one of my legs, and then on my back. When I felt it on my face, I jumped up and turned on the lights. My bed, the entire apartment in fact, was teeming with cockroaches. I went to war with rolled up newspapers. I say newspapers, plural, because I had to throw away one after another as they became wet with bug guts after a dozen swats or so. I could never quite win that war, though, and soon I had to reconcile myself to falling asleep with those bugs crawling on me. Ah, the glamorous life of Hollywood. Still, after living in an unfinished house in Seattle, crashing for a week in a San Francisco squat and sleeping in my car and showering in my brother's place, I finally had a place to call home. And anyway, cockroaches don't bite. My mother and her 20-year-old daughter lived across the hall, and they were always really nice to me. On weekends, a line of Marines up from boot camp in San Diego would form in front of their apartment and stream out into the lobby of the building. I was naive. I didn't know to suspect anything. It took several weeks before I deduced that my neighbors had a little family business going on as hookers. Soon I was bringing girls home, cockroaches be damned. Once I even hosted the hostess of the Black Angus. She was definitely not used to vermin-infested apartments, but as I found with other women who came over, she either didn't notice or pretended not to notice. I guess it was, if not exactly romantic, at least an expected part of the rock and roll milieu, and everyone knew I was in LA to make music. I also found a gig playing with the Michael McMahon Band, a Tommy Tutone-like pop group with regular club gigs. It gave me a chance to work on my bass chops, and they even paid me. I was playing clubs and meeting people. I was observing, looking for my opening. Things were going so well, in fact, that I began to have grand illusions of being there in LA for a reason. It steeled my resolve to find the right group of musicians with whom to push towards something special. By then, the local punk community knew I was in town, too. One day, I picked up the phone at my apartment, and the guitar player from the Mentors was on the line. "Hey, Duff, it's Sicky Wifebeater. El Deuce wants you to join the Mentors." El Deuce was the drummer and sang for the Mentors. "I'm here to offer you a welcome call," Sicky continued, and I was thinking, how do I get out of this? Chuck Biscuits, the drummer from DOA, Black Flag and the Circle Jerks, and later Danzig and Social Distortion, called me too. He had been my favorite drummer since I was a kid. He and the guitar player from MIA had come down to Long Beach so the three of us could play together. I'm playing with Chuck Biscuits. But I soon learned that what they were doing wasn't anything special. I wasn't going to join a band with Chuck Biscuits just to play with Chuck Biscuits, even though I idolized him. Just as I wasn't going to be in a band with Slash and Steven just to do it, it was all too comfortable. Well, that completes Chapter 5. Let me know what you guys thought of Chapter 5 in the comments section. Fun fact, I actually had a cockroach as a pet. Her name was Sasha. She was very gentle and quite easy to take care of. I just wanted to tell you that because it relates to Chapter 5. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on.